Hello everyone, I'm Vesper the Evening Star, and I'll be your host today on Vesper's Fanfiction Time. Today we have a really funny but dark, angsty story, I think. I don't know, I really enjoy it. It makes me laugh a lot, and I laugh at a lot of things, but, I think you'll be laughing too. This is a My Hero Academia fanfiction, if I didn't already say that. I think I did. I don't know. And this story is called You Call It Necromancy, I Call It Making Friends. As always, the link to this story will be down in the description below, and I will put it in the comment section as well, just so that way you know who wrote it and everything. And if you want to check it out and read it instead of listening to me read it for you, you can do that. So without further ado, let's read the story. Summary. Necromancy is not a very socially accepted quirk. Being the fruit of his mother's affair doesn't win many favors with his father. Neglectful mother, abusive father, bullying at school, abandoned by his best friend. Izuku's life since his quirk manifested has just been downhill. Of course, let's add abandonment into the equation as well. Why not? How does a 6-year-old survive alone in a society that apparently hates him? Izuku has a practical solution. Zombies. Chapter 1. Izuku wakes up feeling strange. His 4th birthday was a week ago, meaning that they are in the middle of summer. The last few days have been hot, but he wakes up feeling chilly despite this. In an attempt to stay warm, he curls up and hides under the blankets, but the cold continues. Wrapping himself in the blankets like a cape, he gets up and looks for his mother, who is in the kitchen preparing breakfast. "Mom, I'm cold," he calls her. "Oh dear, are you feeling?" His mom turns and pales when she looks at him. "Ill?" She runs to him and puts a hand on his forehead. "Dear God, you're freezing, Izuku!" His mom quickly runs with Izuku to the hospital. His symptoms sound like high hypothermia. His breathing is shallow, his skin cold and pale, and his heartbeat extremely slow, only at 20 BPM. But despite this, his movements are not slow. He is not confused nor drowsy, and his speech is normal. His body temperature is only 27 degrees Celsius. 80.6 Fahrenheit, which would be considered severe hypothermia, but he shows no problems other than shivering. His shallow breathing and slow heartbeat don't seem to affect him. The doctors conclude that it must be his quirk manifesting. Izuku's mother appears to be worried about something upon hearing this, but she just thanks the doctors and takes Izuku home. She drops Izuku off at Aunt Mitsuki's house a few hours later. Despite the summer weather, Izuku is dressed as if he's going skiing, with a heavy jacket and pants. He just took off his mittens so he could write in his notebook. He is writing about a new hero who debuted a few months ago and has recently started a radio program. His quirk is so cool. Suddenly, he hears something tapping on Kachan's bedroom window, and he turns around just in time to see a little bird falling. Immediately, he closes his notebook, accidentally cutting his finger on the paper, and jumps from Kachan's bed. "Hey, nerd, where are you going?" Kachan asks, pausing the game he's playing. "I need to help the bird," Izuku replies, running outside. Arriving outside, he soon finds the bird lying on the ground. He runs to try and help the bird, which he identifies as a oriental turtle dove, but he soon realizes that it is already dead. Kachan arrives just as Izuku is scooping the bird into his hands. Izuku looks at him with a few tears gathering in his eyes. "Do you think Auntie would help me bury it?" he asks. "I'm sure the hag will help," Kachan replies. They go back inside and find Aunt Mitsuki in the living room. Izuku opens his mouth to call to her, but stops when he feels movement in his hand. When he looks, the dove is moving. "It's alive?" Kachan asks. "I'm sure it was dead," Izuku replies. They look at each other for a few seconds. "Is this my quirk?" The next day, Izuku's mother takes him to a specialist to try and understand what his quirk is. When he explains what happened, they assume it is some kind of resurrection quirk. The doctor examines the pigeon, and his eyes instantly go wide. "This bird looks alive, but cold, and their heart is not beating." He looks at Izuku's mom. "From what I've seen, I believe that your son's quirk is a form of necromancy. We'll have to do a few tests to understand exactly how this works." Izuku's mom nods, and the doctor leaves, coming back a few minutes later with another doctor, this one wearing sunglasses. "Good morning. My name is Dr. Yogi Kenji, but I am usually called Dr. Quirk. the new doctor says. My quirk works with eye contact. By looking into another person's eyes for a few seconds, I can see details about their quirk, types, functionalities, side effects, and drawbacks, among other things. It also shows me what quirks combined to create the new one. He smiles at Izuku. Having said that, can I examine your son's quirk? Of course, doctor, Izuku's mom replies. Then, excuse me. The doctor takes off his sunglasses, revealing eyes which are shaped like camera lenses. He gently takes Izuku's hand and looks at him. Just look into my eyes. It's no problem if you blink, but don't turn your head. Okay, Izuku replies. The doctor looks at him for about 30 seconds. Oh my. That's indeed an interesting quirk. He turns to Izuku's mom. As the other doctor suspected, your son's quirk is a blood-based form of necromancy. He can reanimate corpses that come in contact with his blood. The amount of blood needed to reanimate a body depends primarily on the subject's size. His quirk caused some mutations in his body to protect him. Izuku's skin is fragile, and he bleeds easily. But in compensation, he replenishes lost blood and heals faster. His wounds heal in half time of a normal person. The decrease in body temperature and heart rate is his defense mechanism. Because of his fragility, an injury could easily make him bleed to death. But because of his lower body temperature and heart rate, this won't be a problem. He taps his chin a few times, then adds, the reason he's feeling so cold is because his body is still not used to the new quirk. But soon he will get used to it, and the cold will not affect him at all. Izuku's mom narrows her eyes at the exclamation. What quirks formed his quirk? She asks. The doctor raises an eyebrow. His quirk, primarily, is a mutation of a quirk called manipulation by blood. He also has traces of a quirk called attraction of small objects. He explains. Izuku's mom immediately pales. Anyway, I have everything I need. You can go to the counter in the lobby to register his quirk. Thank you, doctor, she says, her voice a bit strained, then leaves. Immediately, she returns with Izuku to the car. Mom, don't we need to register my quirk? Izuku asks, and she looks at him with a furious expression. What quirk? She asks, snatching the dove from his hands. You have no quirk. The doctor said you're quirkless. Then she throws the pigeon to the floor and stomps hard on its head. Izuku can only stares in shock as she opens the door and pushes him into the car. Not a word about what happened here. Understood? Your father can't know. By now, Izuku was crying, but she ignores him, and when they get home, she sends him to his room. His mom tells his dad that the doctor said Izuku is quirkless, and she keeps the lie for about a week. Unfortunately for her, registering quirks is required by law. So a week after the visit to the specialist, when she has not yet registered Izuku's quirk, they receive a call informing them that they need to register it. The one who answers the call is Hashia. And with that, the lie ends. That night, Izuku hears his parents screaming. He discovers that Hashia is not his biological father. His mom had an affair with a coworker, and Izuku's quirk is a mutation of the coworker's quirk. Izuku cries himself to sleep with his parents' angry shouts as background noise. The next day, they register Izuku's quirk under the name Necromancy. For a whole week, Izuku listens to his parents fight every night, but in the end, they stay together. Izuku wishes they hadn't. His mom starts ignoring him after that, but Hashia makes it clear that he hates Izuku. Any excuse he can use to beat up Izuku, he uses. At school, things are not much better. Necromancy is not a well-regarded quirk by society. Immediately after having his quirk revealed, his classmates start calling him a villain. The silver lining is that they know Izuku's quirk is blood-based, and that his skin is fragile. So, out of fear of him, they never physically attack him. Kachan does not join in the bullying, but he begins to distance himself from Izuku, and after a month, the two hardly speak to each other anymore. Kachan just ignores Izuku. Things are terrible at school, but still, it's a paradise compared to home. For 2 years, Hizashi becomes more and more aggressive, while Inko becomes more and more negligent. The limit comes one day while Izuku is hiding in his room. Hizashi enters and grabs him by the arm, dragging him out. Izuku narrowly manages to get his shoes from the doorway. He shoves Izuku into the car and starts driving down a road that Izuku doesn't know. Afraid of what he is about to do, Izuku begins to cry, but Hisashi ignores him. They stop in front of a forest, and Hisashi takes a small backpack and goes back to drag Izuku by the arm. They go deep into the forest, and after about 20 minutes of random walking, Hisashi lets go of Izuku's arm and drops the backpack in front of him. "I don't care what you do now. Just never appear in front of me again," Hisashi says, and leaves. Izuku stands there, crying for several minutes, without knowing what to do. It was winter, and he was only wearing his pajamas. But as the doctor said, the cold stopped affecting him a few weeks after his quirk manifested. When his tears are dry, Izuku opens the backpack Hisashi left with him. Inside is a small folded blanket, a few water bottles, and some food. Probably Hisashi's attempt to ease his conscience. Without much to do, Izuku chooses a random direction and starts walking. He feels as if he has been walking for hours. His feet begin to hurt, and he decides to stop and rest. At that moment, he hears a growl coming from deeper in the forest and starts to run in a panic. Soon, he trips over something and falls face down on the ground. A bit of dirt gets into his mouth. Izuku stands up, spitting the dirt out of his mouth, and looks at what he has stumbled upon. His eyes widen as he sees a burnt and nearly crumbling skull. Before thinking much, he hears another howl, this time much closer. He looks again at the skull and runs to it, kneeling in front of it. Izuku looks at his wrist, and after only a moment's hesitation, he bites down hard, easily tearing the fragile skin. He places his wrist over the skull and lets the blood gush out. As soon as the blood touches the skull, it begins to regenerate. Nearby bones are drawn together to form a complete skeleton, except for the missing jawbone in the skull. A growl makes Izuku turn around, and he sees a large lone wolf approaching him, with drool dribbling from its snout. Izuku starts running, despite knowing he can't outrun a wolf, but the panic is speaking louder. The wolf gives chase. The wolf soon catches up with Izuku and jumps in front of him. Izuku almost doesn't stop before crashing into them. He takes a few steps back, but trips over his own feet and falls on the ground. The wolf approaches him, growling, and then jumps up to attack. Izuku covers his face with his hands, waiting for the pain. But instead, a flash of light appears, followed by a whine. Then he hears the wolf running away. "Are you okay, kid?" Izuku removes his arm from his face, and in front of him he sees a skeleton. A real skeleton. Just a pile of bones that is somehow moving and talking, despite not having a jawbone. In their eye sockets, they have a turquoise light, and in their hands, blue flames slowly fade. Their voice sounds male. "Who are you?" "I am." The skeleton stops, then turns around with their hands on their waist, then puts one hand on their upper jaw, and then starts scratching their skull. "Who am I?" "You don't remember? Nothing at all?" Izuku asks as he gets up from the ground. I'm male," the skeleton says, looking more like a question. "I think I'm about 13 years old. My quirk is cremation, and that's it." "I guess it's because you were dead for a long time," Izuku starts muttering. He was just bones until they revived him. Actually, just being able to move is strange enough. There is nothing holding him together. He should just disassemble. And how does he speak if he has no vocal cords, or hear if he has no tympane, or see without eyes? Well, I think those lights are eyes, but still. And how— "Kid!" A snap of bony fingers cuts the mutter storm. "Quirks are fucking weird," or don't repeat this word, okay? Anyway, from what I gathered, you revived me. He looks at his body. Kinda. Izuku immediately starts waving his hands and apologizing. "I'm sorry, I was alone for so long in this forest, and then I heard the growling, and then I saw your bones," Izuku explains. "I'm sorry I didn't ask your permission." "Kid, I was dead," the skeleton replies. "Unless you have a Ouija board with you, how are you supposed to ask for permission?" Izuku shrugs, not quite sure how to reply to that. "I can send you back if you want to." "You can?" the skeleton asks. Izuku thinks for a while, then shrugs. "I don't know. It's the first time I used my quirk since I was 4. People don't like necromancy," he explains. Well, I'm not in a hurry to die a second time anyway. The skeleton smiles? How can Izuku tell that he's smiling? So, want to stick together for now? Okay, Mr. Skeleton, Izuku smiles. Please, don't call me that. The skeleton replies. Then what do you want to be called? Izuku asks, tilting his head. The skeleton thinks for a few seconds, then smirks at Izuku. Again, it's weird that Izuku can tell he's smirking. Call me Dabi. And that is it for chapter 1, folks. The ending is super funny. Well, to me it is. I hope it was to y'all. And you will be getting chapter 2 soon. This is super fun. And have a good morning, good night, have a good whatever. See ya, folks. Bye.